You're free and clear.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session. Our webinar will begin in just a few minutes. While you're waiting, please feel free to review our program information at csudh.edu/CEIE/global-logistics. We'll see you in just a few minutes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Keith Otterberg, and I'm the Marketing Director for the College of Extended and International Education at Cal State Dominguez Hills. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on our website and social media platforms after today's session. Please feel free to download the Global Logistics Certificate Program Information Kit for details about the program and resources covered in the webinar. The address is bit.ly/CSUDH-GLX-InfoKit. We've provided a link in the chat for those who are participating live via Zoom, and it will also be in an email that will be available to attendees following the session. Before we jump in, I'd like to review the Zoom controls. This session is being presented in webinar format, so you don't need to worry about your mic or camera. However, we want your participation, so please help us address your needs by using the Q&A button, which is at the bottom right of your screen if you're joining us from the Zoom desktop app or web browser, or in the top right of your screen if you are using a mobile device. Please ask your questions in the Q&A rather than in the chat panel. In the chat panel, we will be providing helpful links and information for the webinar. Once you click the Q&A button, a dialog box will open allowing you to type your question. Our marketing staff members Anissa Barton-Thompson and Stephanie Bukian, as well as Program Director Elizabeth Legg, are standing by to assist. We'll be answering those questions at the end of the session. However, often you may find that the question you have has been answered during the course of the presentation. That said, let's take a look at today's agenda. We'll begin by meeting our Global Logistics Certificate instructor, who will discuss the current industry outlook and introduce you to the program via an overview of benefits, expectations, and course details. And now to lead off our session, I'll turn it over to Duane Murphy. Take it away, Duane.
Thank you, Keith, and good morning, everybody. My name is Duane Murphy, and I have 30 plus years of global logistics experience in sales, global sales, operations, and regulatory compliance. I have a bachelor's of science in business administration at Cal State University, Long Beach. I also have a master's of arts in management at the University of Redlands. Currently, I am in sales operations for Maersk, and I'd like to consider myself somewhat of a logistics magician, able to show you and present to you that everything is logistics. Everything has a logistical component in business and in life. On your screen, you see a picture of the space station. Well, the space station is an experimental industrial platform because the future of manufacturing is in space for a lot of technical reasons. So someday the UPS driver will be piloting a shuttle and not just a truck. So this is an illustration of the future of logistics. It's a very exciting future. It's a very high-tech future, and one that I think is very exciting. Who should attend? Who is our target audience? And what type of professional background? Well, anyone who is in business. You don't have to be currently in transportation or logistics, but whether you're in the accounting department, the marketing department, sales, operations, facilities management, you touch logistics. You touch global logistics. If you're an Amazon seller, you're in the global logistics business. So I will make those connections, and the information we provide with you over the courses will give you the tools needed to help you and help you be successful no matter what part of the business world you're participating in. The employment outlook, it's quite good. Most segments of the global logistics industry are hiring, even during the pandemic. For those of you looking to get into logistics, this certificate program will give you the basic skills. You will learn the language, you will learn the processes, you will learn the documentation requirements, and the government regulatory environment as well. For those of you already in logistics, I think this will help you build upon your current experiences. We may go over segments of global logistics and transportation you may not be as familiar with. Once again, regardless of what you're doing in the business world, you are in the logistics business, directly or indirectly. And this program will give you the tools to be successful in that environment. So let's review the key topics we'll be discussing over the courses. The first one is globalization. We'll be discussing the global industrial cycle, which is simply the movement of the manufacturing of goods around the globe. Outsourcing, when manufacturers move their production to a particular country. Trade agreements, like the North American Free Trade Agreement. We will be discussing what free trade agreements are, their impact on the global industrial cycle and outsourcing, their impact on the price of the goods, and any geopolitical implications there. And we'll also be going in depth on the global distribution model, which is the supply chain model, or how goods are distributed in the marketplace. We'll be discussing the transition from a push model to a pull model because of the inception of e-commerce platforms. Transportation, certainly a big part of our program. We'll be discussing in-depth importing and exporting networks and the import and export process. The importing and exporting class will teach you how to import and export. If you're looking on getting into the import-export business, we will show you how to get started. We will show you the documentation, the regulatory process. We can help you get started there. We'll be discussing all the modes of transportation, air freight, ocean transportation, trucking, and e-commerce platforms, and how Amazon and other e-commerce companies are influencing these modes of transportation. We'll be discussing the legal aspect of global logistics, risk and liability, the risk of importing and exporting. What are the pitfalls? How to avoid them? And the liability. What is your carrier liable for? And what are you as a shipper or a receiver of goods liable for? Pricing structures. The different modes of transportation have very different pricing structures, and we will go over all of them in depth. Domestic final mile networks, delivery networks. You see a photograph of Amazon trucks. Companies like Amazon and even the big retailers are all involved in e-commerce platforms, and they are drastically changing how your goods are delivered. And they have a huge impact on what UPS and FedEx will be doing in the future. So this is a revolution that's going on in transportation right now. And the days of just simply delivering product are over. It's a more complex process. It's a very high-tech process as well. Regulatory compliance. We'll be going over in depth the customs brokerage and customs clearance process, how to get your goods and bring your goods in and out of the United States and other countries legally. We will be going over and reviewing the documentation requirements, and we specifically go over all the necessary and fundamental documentation for international shipping. Global security, certainly some major changes there since 9/11. And we'll be reviewing the global security programs in place, processes, the additional expenses, and the goals of those processes. Taxation. Again, this is a global logistics course. So taxation is a big indicator and a big component on how companies and manufacturers and countries behave. So we'll be talking about how countries' taxation on income, on inventory, on production influences outsourcing and influences global supply chains and distribution models. Tariffs and duty. So when goods enter or leave a particular country, they are subject to tariffs and duty and certain taxes. We'll be going over what these taxes are, how they influence buying and selling behavior, and how they influence where our goods are manufactured, thus influencing and creating new distribution models. Government regulation. Our industry is heavily regulated for safety, primarily, and these are regulations that are very important for those of you wanting to get into particularly even ground transportation, trucking transportation. So we review and talk about the major regulatory bodies here in the United States: the Department of Transportation, the Federal Motor Carrier Commission, and other major regulatory departments of the U.S. government. Technology. When people think of the global logistics industry, transportation in general, they don't think of it as a high technology industry. It is. This is a very high tech industry. So for those of you interested in technology, computer technology, manufacturing technology, industrial engineering technology. This is a good industry for you. So when we talk about technology, we talk about the basic technology of tracking with barcode scanning, that kind of thing. And in warehousing and distribution, which we will cover in depth, high technology is being used there on a daily basis. Computer scanning, algorithms on how to store goods and cargo. Drone technology is being used in warehouse and distribution. So there's a lot of exciting things going on there. E-commerce, certainly no need for a big explanation here. Amazon, and obviously what the internet has done for e-commerce platforms. So very exciting there, and we take a look at that. Also equipment. The trucks, the airplanes, they may all look the same, but they're very different. So when we talk about technology in our industry, I also review how the equipment is changing and how our materials are changing, composites, ceramics, plastics, that kind of thing, which make our industry more efficient, use less fossil fuels, that kind of thing. And lastly, computer hardware and software. Companies like Maersk and UPS and FedEx are using very advanced technologies like artificial intelligence for proactive notification, predictive analysis, trying to see what's going to happen before it happens using historical data and algorithms, and also some new and exciting technologies that UPS and FedEx are on the forefront of, and that's blockchain technology, which is secure block storage and secure storage of data in the supply chain, in the cloud. And also computer technology. We don't really think about it that much, but we're about to enter a new phase, and what I think is going to be a very revolutionary change in the computer hardware with what's called quantum computing. So we're entering an era that computers are going to be twice as fast, and that speed is going to help the transportation industry and global logistics get more efficient, predict bottlenecks, predict delays, that kind of thing, routings. So there's an awful lot of things happening with technology in the logistics industry, and we'll be discussing this in depth. The Global Logistics Certificate courses, 900 is the Introduction to Logistics, where we talk about the global industrial cycle, outsourcing, and we do the 30,000-foot overview of the logistics industry, where it's been and where it's going. 901, Importing and Exporting. As we mentioned before, we will get into all the processes and the mechanics of importing and exporting. 902, Global Logistics. We will continue our discussion on global logistics processes like customs clearance and those types of things. 903, Transportation Management and Physical Distribution. This is where we have an extensive conversations regarding the U.S. trucking industry, the final mile, e-commerce platforms, and third-party logistics. 904, the financial instruments of international trade. So how businesses and large corporations finance their importing and exporting transactions. And we go over the major and the most popular instruments on how that is done. And not only for large companies, but for also small companies, for those of you thinking about starting your own international import-export business. And then finally, 905, hazardous materials. We review how to identify hazardous materials, fill out the hazardous paperwork, which is required by the Department of Commerce, and go over safety protocols and just a general overview of how to deal with hazardous materials and ship them safely. The text is a book called Transportation, A Global Supply Chain Perspective by Cole Novak Gibson, the 8th edition. There is a 7th and a 9th edition. All of these editions are acceptable if you find them, depending on where you're looking to purchase the books. Features and benefits of the program. So, as I mentioned before, we went over the features, all the different topics we're going to discuss in depth. The modes of transportation, customs clearance, importing and exporting, trucking, third-party logistics, all these different types of things we're going to be reviewing. So what this program is going to give you is a solid foundation. You're going to be able to take the information that you learn, and you're going to be able to apply it immediately to your business. For those of you in transportation and global logistics, you'll be able to use this information day one. For those of you trying to enter the global logistics business, you will be able to speak the language of global logistics. So when you're interviewing for a position, you'll be able to speak their language. You'll be able to demonstrate in an interview that you are educated and you can hit the ground running. And that's what employers are looking for. They're looking for people who have a good base of knowledge so they can spend less time and effort on training, and they want people that have the basic knowledge and skills. This course will give you that. So,
Thanks very much, Duane.
oh, no problem. Thank you.
Thanks for that great overview. And we'll get back to you in a moment for our Q&A segment. First, let's go over the course delivery details. The global logistics courses are generally taught on Saturdays in a live online format. And the complete schedule will be in the information packet that will be available after the webinar. You can complete the certificate in as little as 3 months. And the courses are scheduled twice a year, in spring and in fall. You can take the courses in any order. However, we strongly suggest that you take them in the order that in which they are presented. That will help in your progression of learning. And attendance and participation are required for credit in the classes. You can't miss a class session. You need to attend all the classes. So to register, you simply call our registration office at 310-243-3741 and then push option 1. They are open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Saturdays 9 to 1. So you can still register today if you'd like. If you've taken a course at Dominguez Hills in the last 2 years, you can register online using your My CSUDH account. That's my.csudh.edu. We highly recommend that you register early in order to secure your place in the class. And you need to register at least a week in advance in order to get all of the course materials, the login information, and get you registered in the system. Payment is due at the time of registration. You can pay for one class at a time, or you can pay for several classes or all the classes. The program is also available for funding through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which provides funding for qualified students who are unemployed or underemployed. If you think you might qualify for that, contact our specialist at wioa@csudh.edu. Other assistance is available via student loans. You can Google private student loan providers or look online for salliemay.com, and they have assistance for career training. Again, we recommend you register at least 1 week before the course begins and check your Toro mail and personal emails frequently to get information about how to log into the course and so forth. You'll also be able to get into Blackboard, which is our learning management system, and see where course assignments are located, where the course schedule is located, get comfortable with the layout of the class, announcements and Zoom meeting schedules and so forth. Now let's get to the Q&A. We'll start with a few frequently asked questions. So Duane, what's the difference between supply chain and logistics?
Okay. The key difference is that supply chain does include a transportation component, and our course is part of the supply chain model. But supply chain goes further in depth with purchasing and manufacturing and those types of functions at what I call the origin of the supply chain. So our course focuses on the portion of the supply chain that is primarily transportation.
Great. While we're answering these frequently asked questions, I want to remind everyone that you can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen or in the upper right if you're on mobile to ask your questions that you want answered. So please take this opportunity to ask us anything that you need to know in order to make a decision about our program. So Duane, next question. How do I get hired in the global logistics industry if I don't have any experience?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what this course is designed for. This course is designed and it will deliver you some foundational knowledge which can plug in as experience. So when you go into an employer, yes, your experience may not be where they want it to be, but you will have the education, you will have the skills, you will have the knowledge, you'll be able to speak the language, which is also very important. And depending on which part of the transportation logistics business you choose, your experiences, they will certainly take a look at the education that this course provides.
Great. Here's always a biggie. Is there homework?
There is no homework. We do everything in class. It's a class that encourages participation from everyone, but everything we do is in class.
Okay. And so if everything you do is in class, what happens if I have to miss a day?
Right. As Keith mentioned before, we need everyone to have 100% attendance. In the event that you simply cannot make the class, then reach out to me and I will assign an assignment to be completed outside of class. So with that being said, please make every effort not to miss a class, because you will be missing some of the, obviously you'll be missing the knowledge and obtaining the skills of that class.
Okay. So here's a question from Jason. If I want to get a jump start on the book, which chapter or chapters should I have read by the first day of class?
I would start with, I would start from the beginning of the book. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I really, and again, we don't follow the book page by page during the classes, but if you want to get a jump start, I would start with the portion of global logistics you're interested in. So if you're interested in importing and exporting, go to that section. If you're interested in trucking or customs clearance, go to those sections. So this class is about what you guys want. So start with what you're most interested in.
Great. Okay. We have a few more FAQs. First would be, what kind of certificate do I get? So I can answer that. You get, once you have completed all the courses in the certificate, you would apply to receive a certificate, and it takes about 6 to 8 weeks, and you will receive a paper certificate. But you will also receive an electronic certificate that you can put on your resume, your online resume, and also share through social media. So this is a great way for employers to know that you have this certificate, and employers often check your social media sites and your resume so that they can know what you're up to. Another question's come in. Are there exams or a final exam? Duane?
No, there are no examinations. So the way I run my class is we certainly talk about the specific topics, and I emphasize which topics I think have the most relevance for that day and that session. So the examination is people's participation and attendance.
Okay. Something else people might want to know is there an assigned class project? That's the first one. And the second one would be, how do people connect with people in the industry in order to network and find a job?
Okay. We don't have set class projects. We talk about case studies and we talk about real world scenarios. So I'm very, very big on that. Each week we have a portion of the class that focuses on what's going on in the industry. We talk about specific topics, port congestion, deregulation of the airlines, and what's going on with final mile or anything currently going on, labor shortages in transportation, whatever the case may be. I'm sorry, what was the second part of that question again?
Second part is, well, this is actually a two-part. So how do you connect with people in the export industry? And also, are there any, to that point, are there any organizations that are student friendly?
That's a great question. And networking, as you all know, is very, very important. In terms of networking, I would probably start with the organizations. There's the Los Angeles Air Freight and Freight Forwarders Association. There's the FTA. So I would go online and look for logistics trade organizations. You can attend their functions without joining. One way to network, and this may sound a little crazy, is just by interviewing with companies. That way, when you interview for jobs, that's how you learn about companies. So if you're interviewing with 3PL companies, they're going to tell you a lot about their company, what they expect, what type of background they're looking for, what kind of experiences they're looking for. So import-export clubs, if they're out there, there used to be. So I would just start with trade organizations. I'd look on the internet. In terms of ones that are student-friendly, if you're attending a university, when I was at Long Beach State, I was in the International Business Club for a little while. So if you're attending a college or a university, check that out. And if you're not, just look up the trade organizations and websites for looking for jobs. There's a site called Jobs and Logistics, and that's a very popular one, and also the traditional sites. So if networking is a challenge for you, I would just get your resume out, get it on the job boards, and start interviewing. And that's how recruiters find you as well. And that's how employment agencies find you as well, because they have access to Indeed and Career Builder on what's called the back end. So a lot of recruiters see your resume when you post it. So post your resume and just get out there and start interviewing. That's also a way of networking.
Great. That's good information. I want to point out also that Dominguez Hills has a supply chain and logistics social media sites that can help you to network. We're on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and those links are in the chat panel if you want to access those. Another question that's come in is, can you share what other U.S. locations, regional or metro, outside of Southern California, where there's a lot of logistics jobs and organizations?
Well, any major city, any major industrial area, Los Angeles, New York, New Jersey, Chicago, Houston has a very fast growing port area. So any major population and industrial center will have jobs in logistics. The Midwest, a lot of 3PL. Nevada, Reno has a lot of 3PL and warehousing jobs. So if you wanted a career in ocean shipping, I obviously would recommend a port city and a major port city like Los Angeles, Houston, New York, Norfolk, Virginia, Wilmington, Delaware, places like that. But the good news about logistics is there's so much to do in global logistics and transportation. So you don't have to be in a major industrial area, but those tend to be where more of the jobs are. So my advice to people is don't limit yourself to a geographic area. If there's a certain place in the country you want to live, then get online and start interviewing in those areas.
Great. You mentioned port cities. What about longshoremen? Would they benefit from this certificate?
Yes, if they wanted a better understanding of how their job impacts the global logistics industry. And, I've had longshoremen in my class in the past. I just had what's called a casual longshoreman in my class last semester. And he took the class because he doesn't have a full-time position at the port and he wanted to supplement his income getting in with another organization or starting his own. He was looking at starting his own trucking business or import-export business. So it depends on your situation. But I have had people who work for the ports in my class before who just wanted to get a greater understanding of how the port fits into the global logistics environment.
Great. Okay. I wanted to get across something that's on everyone's mind, and that is how much does it cost? The total cost of the 6 courses is $1,190. Excuse me, $1,190, and the book is around $340. So that's your only cost for the course. And again, as I said, you can register and pay for each course one at a time if that will help you financially. I think we've answered everyone's questions at this point. So I want to get back to our registration process. If you need to register, if you would like to register, just call our registration office at 310-243-3741, option 1. And again, if you've taken a course at Dominguez Hills in the last 2 years, you can register online at my.csudh.edu. If you have questions for us that come up after the seminar, you can email us at learn@csudh.edu or call us at 310-243-2075. Also, if you go on the website during regular business hours, there's a chat feature so you can chat with our marketing staff. We'd like to get your feedback on today's webinar. So there's a QR code in the panel if you want to look at that, or you can go to bit.ly/CSUDH-webinar-feedback. We'd love to get your feedback and see how we can improve for future sessions. So this concludes our webinar for today. Thank you very much for joining us, and feel free to visit us on our website, in our Facebook or LinkedIn group. And remember to register early for your spot in the classes. We'll stay online for just a few minutes to give everyone a chance to download or copy information from the chat. And the recording for this session will be available online shortly on our website and on our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for joining us and stay safe, and we'll see you in class.